Hello. Today is day number 7 of 40 days of training videos, and it's a little bit different today. Today I'm not talking about nutrition and I'm not talking about exercise. Today I'm talking about my longest standing habit, and that is morning pages. And I don't know if you've ever tried journaling before, but morning pages, I started doing these almost 22 years ago. In May of 1995, I started doing them. And I'm going to just kind of tell you a little bit about why I started and what I get out of them, and why I even consider them a fitness habit, and why I continue and have continued for so long. Just to give you a little bit of a backstory, in 1995, I was working at a corporate job that I hated, and I had been there for quite a while, and I knew that I wanted out, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And at the time, I thought I wanted to be a commercial artist, and I quickly learned that that wasn't what I wanted to do. But I had bought this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and one of the exercises in the book is morning pages. And basically what they are is 3 pages written longhand, which is kind of like a brain dump, basically, for lack of a better term. And I found them very interesting because the first page or two could be very dry and very, you could be making a checklist of what you need to do that day, or talking about the weather or something very unimportant. But by the time you get to page 3, some things start to come up that are very deep. And it started to reveal things about me, things that I liked, things that I didn't like about my life. And I credit a lot of things to doing these morning pages. This is where I first learned that I wanted to be a personal trainer. This is where I first learned that I wanted to adopt a child. Every sorrowful moment, every joyful moment, all of the very poignant moments of my life, and probably all the boring ones too, are contained in these pages. So this is my very first journal, and I had used notebooks over the years, but I found after a while that just writing on loose leaf paper and containing them in these binders was the way I wanted to go. And each 3-inch binder contains a year. And I don't know if you can see back here, but all of these are the years and that I've done this. And pretty much I've done this every day, with the exception of a couple, for almost 22 years. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about myself. And you might be wondering why I even consider this a fitness habit. And while it might not be a physical fitness habit, it is very much a mental and spiritual habit. And I really can't even picture my life without doing this anymore. This happens every single day, and it's happened pretty much every day with very rare exception for 22 years, because it's been that valuable to me to learn what I want out of life, to learn what I have to give, to find a place to put my creative thoughts and my fearful thoughts and my happy thoughts and pretty much all my thoughts. But it also taught me how to talk to God. This is where a lot of my prayers go. And it also taught me how to hear from God. At least this was my experience, and I was going to share a story about this with you. When I first started doing this years ago, I bought a book called Daily Strengths for Daily Needs, and this was a book I found on the bargain table at Barnes & Noble, I think. And at the time that I first started doing this, I was in this job that I didn't like, and most of my morning pages were just me complaining on the page. And what I found was, after I had written these 3 pages, I would read this book, and it's basically just a book where there's like a Bible verse, and there's a poem, and there's a piece of prose by, like Emerson or somebody like that. And when I would read this book after doing morning pages, it always directly spoke to what I had written. It spoke to my heart right where it was. So it was very interesting. It was almost comical, and it's still, looking back on it, one of the probably one of the most important times of my life, because I really felt like where I was at that moment, I poured my heart out, and then in return, I got an answer. I got a response to that pouring out, and I still get that, not quite as emphatic as that first month was, but it was very, very poignant and a very special time in my life, and maybe that's why I continue to do them now. But I really do credit this to figuring out what I want, and basically how I want to live my life, and how to work through issues that come up on a daily basis. And I just wanted to share that with you because I think this is probably my single best fitness habit ever. And it's one that I have done for 22 years, and I will continue to do probably till the day I die. And it really doesn't matter if I'm at home or traveling, I always have a way of doing this. Now, while I used to do it longhand, and while that is the way that Julia recommends in her book, I have switched to using an iPad now, and I rarely ever went back and looked at these. But as time progressed, I did want to go back and find certain things, and I found it very hard because the only reference that I put on these pages was a date. So it was very hard to go back and find moments in time unless I knew what date they happened. Now I do them in Evernote because I can tag it, and a lot of times the things that I create in my work and in my life, I put here, or I put in Evernote in my journal, so I can find them again and really develop the idea or the thought that I was working on. So that's why I do them that way now. In fact, this first of the year, I thought I'm going to go back to handwriting again because it was so special to do the handwriting part. But there was just too much that I was working through that I wanted to tag that I couldn't, I just couldn't make it work anymore since I'd started using Evernote. However, if you are going to try this and you're just starting out, I would highly recommend handwriting it, and that is the way that she talks about it, and she will give you good reasons for doing that. It keeps you very honest when your hand is connected to the pen, to the page. So if you're just starting, I still would recommend that you go that route first. And that's my tip for the day. I hope that it is meaningful to you. I've seen people post videos on morning pages before, but I haven't seen anyone post one yet that's done it for 22 years. So I hope that gives me a little bit of credibility in this area. I hope it helps, and I will talk to you tomorrow.